Michelle Bernard reading from my book, Beyond Words.
A few years later, I had too much to say. My high school diaries read like the Facebook posts you never want your employer to see. I groped for an outlet to voice my discoveries. Hormones were responsible, I'm sure of it. Or maybe it was the experimental drug use and alcohol. Surely it had something to do with boys, or having to negotiate my way around cliques. I have no idea how a kid survives high school without a private book to speak to. My journals got a lot of noise after weekend parties when I smelled of green plants and cheap beer. I'd write till I fell asleep. I wrote to quell my yearning to leave Iowa. I wrote about my future in the big city where I'd find places and peace on stages, in costumes, behind songs. By age 16, I craved paper. I'd turn any book with blank space into a journal. The black and white composition booklet I was supposed to use for science class, a journal. Extra long legal pads, journals. My dad's half-used ledger even became a journal. Spiral notebooks, loose leaf scraps, and napkins worked too. I'd stuff those loose paper entries into Prince and Donna Summer album jackets. No one would spy for them there. My private books contained song lyrics I'd dissected to find their true meanings. I described my future in Los Angeles, where I knew I'd bump around with movie producers and record moguls. And I did. I wrote about my forbidden love with Greg, name not changed. The white boy with a bigoted father. He became the muse for pages of poetry, dripped in passion and agony. I got to tell Greg that he'd been the star of my high school diary when we spent weeks together in New York 30 years later. I'm grateful I stored those memories in my private books. Those old high school journals await my return. They sit in Michelle boxes in my mom's basement. I can only hope they're undisturbed. They must be, because if my mother knew about my youthful shenanigans, she'd immediately schedule counsel with a preacher to repent for blindsided mothering. It's not her fault I was curious about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Blame it on Elvis or Michael Jackson. I mean Prince, yep. Prince made me that way. Seriously, he did. I specifically remember not keeping a journal during my first years of college. I took my happy smile and bubbles of dreams to the University of Iowa. That road was paved with fame, friendship, and weekend festivities. I had so much going on. I never slowed down to look inward or reflect. I didn't feel like I needed to. I had stars around me. Fast, blinking stars. Then I lost my voice. I talked about that earlier, my singing voice. I was a semester away from I'm sorry, I got caught up emotionally. I was a semester away from graduating. I was also a bit chubbier, with a bit more forehead acne, a bit more anxiety, and in full denial about my anger. My boyfriend lived in another city, and we were doing what 21-year-olds do when they're unsure about the relationship, experimenting. My body was better looking under baggy clothes. I was losing and gaining the wrong things. Adding resignation to my repertoire, I wrote resumes and random journal entries to prepare for graduation. Within a week of graduating, I packed my fragile relationship along with whatever could fit in my rental car and moved to Chicago's West Side. I resumed sporadic journaling when I got there. I had to. It was dizzying, the way my life came to a screeching halt. No one properly positions young folks for a smooth entry into the afterlife called adulthood, probably because it is a kind of death. You're catapulted out of a 20-year nursery of school assignments, rewards, and playtime into stagnation. I mean a job. If you leave your hometown, you have to recover from a different whiplash. You leave behind 500 girlfriends, cheap places to party, and options to sleep in. No one's looking at you in the hallway anymore. No one's sending money to pay your bills. No one's trying to flirt with you while you order your morning croissant. In a new city, doing daily stagnation to earn your keep, every day feels like the first day of summer camp. Who will sit with me? Who will hang with me? Who will get me? Does anybody want to have fun? Who will be my friend? I had to journal to get through the first day of camp experience. Stagnation turned into fermentation. I ended up burying my rotted relationship, keeping for myself the full rent slip and 2 friends, one with a kid she adored more than her husband, one who dated a married man who also had a kid, and unrelenting heartburn. This made for journal entries that were sour and smelled of resentment and lengthy. The wreckage of brooding tears. For a whole year, I sulked on the page. And the great mistake? I reread that sappy dribble. I was becoming my version of Billie Holiday. Enough! I ripped a handful of those pages off the spine and stomped them into my garbage. I remember that. As I write this, I remember promising to never keep a journal again. Use an English accent for again when you read it, because that's how I heard the word in my head. The next session is called My Journals Keep Making Me Cry. And in that next section, I talk about how we've learned that journals are supposed to make you cry and that sad people keep journals and tortured writers keep journals. And I write about that. And you're supposed to read that next section with the background music of a Toni Braxton song from the 90s. But anyway, and that's in the book. I also talk about that your journals, when you learn how to journal the way I teach it in the book, they might make you cry sometime, but they'll usually trigger you to look at yourself and re-see yourself and then shine you up instead of just crying through your pages. Your journal will help you get your mind refocused and get your faith and your belief so that it's charged up, so that you start seeing yourself in your life differently than just reflecting on sort of sappy memories and only retaining in your journal the sappy stuff. Life is about planting our seeds, and our seeds are of whatever you choose to plant. But whatever you plant and then nourish, it grows. And your journal is going to be soil for you to plant seeds that you want to grow, not just your pain. But you want to also grow your dream. Keep dreaming. Don't stop dreaming just because you get older or because people say, lower your expectations. No, don't stop. Don't. But there's a way that you can dream that uses a lot less anger and a lot less clenching and groping. And that's what your journal is going to help you do. It's fertile soil, and whatever you plant in there, you can let it grow. Beyond Words, Finding Fulfillment Between the Lines. Michelle Bernard, I'm the author, and I can't wait for you to read it and let me know how it changes your life.
See my books to lose 10 pounds and the audio series that goes with it, Lose Your Mind to Focus Your Mind Beyond Words, and the Realness Expedition. This is a call to journal.